Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of It's Not You, It's Me podcast. I am DS Choi, your host, and in this episode, I talk about one of the things that I was trying to make for this podcast, thinking it would help me feel better about recording. The end result was that it didn't make me feel better, but I'm glad I tried to figure it out. And you get to see on this episode how what my experience was. And so here goes. All right, so this is the first episode where, well, I if you're watching on video, I have a bobblehead. I don't know how to describe this. A face tracking animation of myself. I was focused on making this in case I don't have to be on camera if I don't want to be. I don't mind doing a face reveal. It's just there's times where I just don't want to be on, you know. But I've been working on this for a bit, and I just want to share it in this episode of what I've been up to, and part of why I struggled with even starting a podcast. Right? Um, if you hear in the previous episodes about how much it's been a struggle just to press record, this one's a little easier because I'm just here to share how this bobblehead thing came to be. And so, well, first it's nice because I got it to track some stuff. Right? I'm like 90% satisfied. It captures the blinks, the eyebrows, the smile, and if I make an O, it'll try to track my facial movements, right? The only thing I don't like right now is perhaps I'll do eye tracking a little bit more so that it's not stationary. There's like tinkering I can do here and there, right? That's for sure. The mouth. So there's a setting in this program that I'm using. Let me show you a demonstration here. So there we go. So if I use this version here, it does a live attempt on lip syncing. And I say lip syncing, which is actually kind of different from, oh, does it track the angle too? I don't know. Maybe something new. But either way, maybe my face is not exactly, because I'm tilting to the right, but this looks vertical, but I'm actually tilted just a little. Maybe it's because the original tracing of this image is a little bit tilted to the left. I'll explain everything. But basically, this lip syncing version will use the audio file and there's ways in which you can basically, like if I'm saying E, right, the E sound correlates to how often people will smile, right, or like have their teeth together, or and so this is why it probably correlates with a smile. E and then O, like you can see the different shapes that's going on. And I can create different sprites to represent different sounds. I just haven't done it very cleanly yet. And so lip syncing is okay. I'm satisfied. It's good enough for now. It imitates me trying to say something. And there's other animations that I was thinking about trying and different stuff, and all good. And so this is what you'll probably see during the rest of the talk here. It's not like you have to pay attention too much to the video per se, but I thought it'd be more I don't know, maybe in the future it'll be kind of like maybe like a stream where I'll have stuff in the background, maybe actually make a proper video. And so that's why this has this little green chroma key behind it in case I need to edit it out. um, so how did I even decide to make this? I did a lot of research on in case I didn't like the way I look and I still wanted to podcast, what that would look like. I'm sure people will be fine. I don't think people really care, but I just found an interest in creating this animation kind of thing. Uh, I call it a bobblehead animation, right? It's just it can track my head moving back and forth. Um, and I guess you could consider it like a VTube model. I don't know. It's like a very janky one for sure. It's 2D, um, but it works. And yeah, again, I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out so far. How did I do it? I got an anim. I basically just used a model from a program that I'm using. I got it on sale from like Black Friday, like Cyber Monday, Cyber Week deal. And honestly, originally when I tried it, it was a struggle. I am not a graphics designer whatsoever. I do not have Photoshop, and it seemed like this program needed to use Photoshop so that I can create images that would be a better fit. And like making the edits, if you're in graphics design, you know, like I think it's PSD files and SVG files. I have no idea what they are. But that's what they're used. And I didn't have this extra editing software or extra graphics design software. Um, I used Paint, basically, Windows Paint, to try to do certain things. And so originally I bought it for a little under $200. And after basically tinkering with it that night, I decided to refund it because I felt like I didn't have the tools and the skills necessary to use it very well. And lo and behold, support gets back to me because you to get a refund, I had to submit a ticket to support to refund the program. And support said, "Oh, you got we give you a 2-week trial anyway. And so why don't you try it for 2 weeks to see how you like it, and perhaps you may change your mind." And darn this marketing scheme, because it worked. I decided, all right, let's give it another try and try to get it to work, right? And so here I am, recording with this, and I've worked on this thing for about a week, and I guess I have to thank my genius brain to push through and try to be creative on how to make this work, because this is not done by scratch. I tried 2 versions. I tried to do it from scratch, and I tried to and I scrapped the scratch version because I felt like there's a lot of things that I didn't know how to do to make it track proper. We can go into that later, but one of the main reasons is the scratch version. I'll probably learn this later, but the scratch version, if I tilt my head too far, the image would actually disappear. Um, the same thing oh, sorry, it's not tilt. It's actually if I turn my face, if I look left, you can't tell it with this 2D image, but if I look left or look right, and if I went past a certain degree, then the image would just straight up disappear. And that's because it's not a 3D model. Neither is this, but I've made it fixed towards a 2D version, and so there's no turn. There's no face turn to the left or the right or up and down. It's literally just the tilt left and right. And so I have this scratched, I don't know, the first attempt somewhere. It's saved somewhere. And I decided for the second attempt, let's use one of the models and demos that comes with the animator file which got me to buy this animation program in the first place. They had tools and programs and tutorials that I was like, oh, maybe I could use these models. And what I will do is change the sprite from those original models, so that because it's already all, I guess you call it rigging. It's all rigged up. Like all the positions and the eyes and the eyebrows and the mouth kind of have its own place. And so all I need to do is literally just change the image. And so from the face, I created this head image. I created new eyes. Same thing with the blinking smiley eyes, the eyebrows, the mouth. Like it's really not that difficult, even with my janky paint skills. And so, if anything, I hope that those who are interested in trying to do something like this, um, yes, it takes a leap of faith and a little bit of courage, but it also takes a little bit of how do you describe it? Openness to just try, mess up. It's okay if it doesn't turn out perfect. And as a recovering perfectionist, I know how hard that can be sometimes because I want it to look good. But again, this is my podcast of my journey of being coach, starting a coaching business, and how I'm trying to start a podcast to make that easier for people to get to know me if they indeed want to, and if they're wanting to explore what coaching would look like with me, right? And so I'm not ashamed of this. This is fun, and I get to talk about it. And people, if you're listening here, yo, thank you. You could be hearing this Yapisode. I think this is Yapisode 2 officially. And these are all done in basically one take. But to be fair, this is take 2 of this episode because the first take, I didn't have enough time to do a full episode. Full episode being roughly 40 minutes, but 2, as I was tinkering with, because I was trying to show the lip sync and the like how I show it in this episode. The first real smart portion, you saw it just tracking my mouth, where the smile, the O, and as I was trying to demonstrate the lip sync, I had actually accidentally turned off the recording with the hotkey. And I was yapping away for about 10 minutes. I was just like, oh, how much longer I have. I checked the recording and I had stopped the recording. And so this is technically take 2. And this is typically where it ended, right? Like right around 10 minutes. And so here I am. doing a take two, but typically these are, I don't know how much I plan to edit these or anything like that, because I think it just takes up more time. And if once it becomes a lot more structured, and perhaps when I want to tell a specific story, I'll script it and it'll be a lot cleaner, perhaps less messy, and a little bit more, how you describe it, higher quality production. Um, but for now, it's all right. We're messing around. We goof off, and we hope that this we just make sure it works. Um, and you get to see the messy journey that is often, I think, missed behind the scenes, right? Like, I think everyone wants a good production. Everyone wants everything to be neat and clean the first time they do it, but a lot of these things are a learning process, right? Like, you just stumble along the way. You try things, it doesn't work, and rather than feeling, because I think oftentimes, even for me, I felt like giving up, right? Like last week when I first did this for the first time, I felt like giving up. I just wanted to stop. I didn't want to continue trying to make this program work, but here I am. I got this to work, right? It takes a little bit of, I don't know if persistence is the right word, but it's a little bit of um, letting go of your expectations, right? Like your high expectations. And especially as a recovering perfectionist, I know what that's like. It's tough because you're like, I want this to be good. I want this to be great. And I think there's also a beauty in demonstrating and showcasing that struggle, because I think a lot of people think, especially on social media, you have to look good, but you don't have to. So, I mean, even right now, I'm hiding behind the camera. I will do a face reveal like very soon. It doesn't really matter to me, honestly. I've done live streaming for gaming and stuff before, and so people know my face. Um, but there was a thing where clearly there are times where I'm just like, maybe I look ugly, or I don't want to show up on camera, and so this is something I made. Great, and I don't have to use it. I'm using it now. Whatever. Um, I probably also need to practice later if I'm doing it with a camera and podcasting. I need to learn how to look at the camera, because I'm probably not making proper eye contacts, probably not engaging. And honestly, even with this bobblehead, there's not much engagement that's going on. I don't even have any pictures in this video. You see this janky green image, or a green background with a uncolored image. I don't even know if I'm blinking. I haven't paid attention. I don't know if I was even blinking simultaneously. I wonder if it's going left or right. I can't even control my wink muscles very well. It is what it is, and we move on. Another thing that's missing, obviously, if you just see this bobblehead, is I'm pretty dynamic with my hands. Right now it's on the table, and you might not even see that on the camera if I were to record. But there are times where people say all the time, I'm like talking with my hands, and it's something I like to do. I'm definitely more expressive, and as I'm trying to yap, I'm even here just moving my hands around, even though you can't see it. And so perhaps people find that distracting and annoying. It doesn't matter. I don't know. If you're here if you're just to hear the yap, that is good enough, right? And if there's anything that you need to see, then I'll probably mention it, right? Like for any listeners who are not paying attention to the video, it's completely okay. I think if I'm gonna make a video, you'll know that it's a video versus a podcast or a yapping thing. Take a sip of water here. I mean, yeah, like, am I gonna edit that out? Probably not. This is part of the yapping. It definitely. I was also thinking about, man, it's so much easier to yap with someone. You can bounce ideas off of each other, and so I think one of the things I need to prep is for sure topics to talk about. And in this case, the topic was simply making this bobblehead, and I guess the improvements that I want to make for sure is maybe I'll really have to think about it. I don't want to do motion capture with my hands, because that means I just have to buy more things, and I'm trying not to buy more things. Um, right now, it's just a camera, microphone, and the money I spent was on this model, or not model, the program, the animation program. Uh, maybe I can get them to sponsor me, perhaps. I don't know. It depends how far I get with it, but I've also had, I guess, I am thankful for all the tutorial videos that they put out, and their smart refund policy in terms of you have 2 weeks. You basically have a 2-week trial. Why don't you try it out until 2 weeks? It's actually my trial actually ends tomorrow, um, and I am probably just gonna keep this. I think for right under $200, this is a decent outcome because I could have also clearly just outsourced someone to make something for me, but I don't think I could have necessarily outsourced a face tracker. But maybe I could. Maybe I didn't do enough research, and that's okay. I think I am willing to pay for this experience, and that's sometimes what it takes, right? You just take a leap of faith and you stick with it, and then you learn. Oh, but in my brief research of trying to figure out how to create these animations, I didn't actually find what I wanted. Maybe I didn't use. I think one of the hard things that we're learning in these ages is the search engine optimization, like the keywords. Maybe I didn't use the proper keywords to search what I'm looking for, and that's okay. Again, um, it's one of those things with perfectionism where you maybe want to do so much research that you know everything before you try something, and that part of me as a coach, I can tell you that often holds us back, right? I can't name how many times I've held myself back in so many of the things that I wanted to do. For example, I used to be a YouTuber. I don't even know if that's proper to say. I made some YouTube videos, and there was more than I wanted to make. And I found myself with the scripting and the video editing. There are many times I made a video and I didn't release it. I didn't like it. I felt like it wasn't good enough. And if it wasn't something that I would watch myself, then I didn't want to post it. And I am sure that's not necessarily a YouTuber thing. I think it's just also being proud of what you've made. And I can definitely say that with this podcast, um, rather than proud of what I made, I'm proud that I am trying. I'm proud that I am stumbling along the way. I'm proud that I am willing to take. I guess willing to be. I don't know if shameless is the right feeling that I'm trying to describe here. Um, I'm proud that I'm brave, courageous, and even then, like it's a little bit awkward saying that even for myself, right? Giving myself compliments. It sounds is facetious the right word? Um, but it's just like let's just do this, see how it goes. If it flops, it's okay. It's a learning experience. And honestly, I am not doing this for the views right now. And if I were to do this for the views, I probably would get so burnt out trying to please everybody. I think in the end, right now, I'm super satisfied with just the attempt. Basically, I think that's why I'm calling these episodes, right? These are episodes where it's unscripted. There's nothing really to talk about. I wish I had bullet notes because I'm nearing about 20 minutes and I don't think I've said much. I just pretty much have been explaining how I feel about stuff. And I guess that's also maybe an interesting statement. I think oftentimes we skip over a lot of emotions. I don't know if I even want to go to this tangent. I don't even know if it's a tangent. Maybe it's a new topic. There are some things where we just don't want to share with people. Um, I guess I can talk a little bit about my coaching. So as part of my coaching training, we have an ethics course and going through that, and we just finished our this 4-part series, and we just finished it yesterday. And something I really learned was how there's so much of ourselves that we project onto others, and a lot of that is fear. I run a little bit anxious in my relationships, and so there's a lot of worries that I project when nothing's there. And I think that's very common with people. And so that's part of perfectionism too, right? It's just like I perceive it, I myself perceive it a certain way, but it's ultimately rooted in how others can perceive it too. If I let fear run that show, perfectionism is I can't let anyone see it, right? I don't even want to look at it myself, but that's rooted in often a performance kind of like I'm ashamed of this, right? when oh, that reminds me, there's so many tangents I'm going to talk about. It's the nature of the yap, but even in the Bible. So I grew up Christian, and Adam and Eve, one of the things when they first eat the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, when they first take a bite of that fruit, the first thing that it says, I think Scripture says their eyes were open and they saw that they were naked, they were ashamed, and they hid. And it's interesting because who told them they were naked? Because clearly they were naked before. And it's only once they ate the fruit that they felt shame of their nakedness. And that's a very interesting concept, right? Because, like, who are they? Like, why, basically, why weren't they shameful before? I'm sure there's like theologians who can talk about this in depth, right? But the idea is we were afraid to be seen. And that's often how I think perfectionism takes root. And I'm not a perfectionism expert. I'm just just literally just talking about my experience. And so in the course, it's so interesting because it's an ethics course, right? And so when you're asked questions about an ethical scenario, you definitely want to give the right answer. Why? Because if you give the wrong answer, what does that mean about you? It means you are unethical, right? And no one wants to be unethical. Why? Because unethical has to do with morality often, right? Like something is right, something is wrong. And I think that's how we often feel about a lot of things. But my experience with this ethics course in particular, I still had those fears and those worries about being, I don't know if unethical, like being wrong, being the bad guy. But this course and the nature of coaching has really taught me. It's definitely more about the coaching experience, and what I've been trained to understand is everything is okay. No one's in danger. We're here to have a discussion, and let us and ethics is let us consider other viewpoints and other perspectives. And if once we when we explore these other perspectives, what does that help you realize and think about that you wouldn't have thought about before? That impacts how you show up in life. And so I remember there was I mean, part of me is like there was in my in my past life as a professor, engineering professor, I had the privilege of teaching a cybersecurity ethics course. I think it was called the course was literally called ethics. It's E for ethical, TH for thinking, I for in, and CS for cybersecurity. So ethics meaning ethical thinking in cybersecurity. That was our like graduate seminar course for CS students. And I am no ethics expert at all, but we had a model to use, and that's what we taught, and that's what we discussed. We had basically real life ethical situations. For example, I don't know how many are familiar with the Challenger incident, where based on pressure with budgeting and money, differences between the engineers and the managers, that the Challenger blew up, um, tragically killing people, and that was an ethical scenario to consider. And yes, there's definitely right and wrong that we could see from different perspectives. And clearly, there was the result in which people died. It's terrible. And what could we have done to do something differently? But there are also things in life where like part of it's like accidents happen, uh, and we're trying to prevent them to the best degree. Another common example for ethics was I don't remember what year this was. From what I remember, it was pretty recent. I feel like it was in the 90s. Um, I don't remember when the cars were first made, but seatbelts, no, not seatbelts, airbags. The airbags were designed originally with only adult men, the average adult male, basically. And so the airbag tended, when deployed, would kill women and smaller sized individuals. And that's one reason why we try not to put kids in the front. The impact from the airbags would kill people. And it felt so silly because if they had women in the room, and they had maybe not just even women, but maybe smaller sized people, a more diverse group of people who are making these engineering decisions to say that, hey, what about me? Isn't this impact like we take medication based on different um, weights, right? Like in terms of effectiveness of medicine. Like, shouldn't we consider because honestly, I don't even know when medicine like that was also considered for different body weight too. There's a lot of things ethically that we just didn't consider because we didn't consider different people. If predominantly men were the engineers making decisions back then we would not have had the input from people who were physically, literally physically sized different, perhaps smaller, um, less weight, shorter, whatever it may be, right? There are things that could be easily avoided, and I think hindsight is 2020, obviously, right? But I think that's the point of ethics. The ethics, the most fun part about ethics is literally how do you think that is different from me that can help the situation. Oftentimes, I think that we see that people seeing differently leads to conflict, and yes, that does occur. But when we're problem solving together to create a solution, it's a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing when people have different opinions and different thoughts. Um, and yes, obviously, it can too many chefs. There's so many bounds. I don't know if boundaries are right. Or so many scenarios and circumstances in which, yes, like you can also say there's too many chefs in the kitchen that may affect decision making. I think clear rules can also help in many situations. But in terms of brainstorming, I think, especially if you want something to make good, then it's worth that discussion. But all backtracking, going back to shame and this idea of fear and perfectionism, right? Um, what like when I'm scared to make a podcast, when I'm scared of messing up, when I'm scared of showcasing how bad I am at things, bad I am at talking, bad I am at like I'm afraid to show my face or whatever, right? Like we're projecting our fears and worries. Most people will say, this is completely fine. This is encouraging. This is inspiring. Um, and it's up to us to decide what we want to focus on, right? Am I going to focus on my fears? What does that do to my emotions? When I'm thinking about fear, I feel small. I feel like I don't want to interact with the world. But when I focus on the inspiration, right? The even for myself, like kind of writing a journal, right? This is basically a video journal, right? Or audio journal in which I talk about all my stumblings and failings of what it used to be. When I look back, I'm going to be proud of where I've come, how far I've come. So what do I want to focus on? Because that if I look back and think about my learning experience, it expands my opportunities about what I could do, what I could consider possibilities. I can't even talk straight, and that's okay. This is part of the yapping. So, okay. What pops into mind? I'm just looking at the camera as I was laughing, and clearly, it doesn't really capture my laugh as a smile. I think sometimes even when I talk, it can't even pick up my facial expression. Like it just stays, my mouth stays shut. That's okay. I'm gonna figure out all this later. I'm gonna tinker with this. If it doesn't turn out okay, whatever. Maybe I'll just end up trashing this or not using this animation a green screen. Maybe I'll just use my actual camera. Maybe like whatever, right? Like same thing. Am I going to focus on the fact that, oh, this looks ugly or this doesn't look good? Or am I going to focus on, I tried this, it didn't work, and now look how far I've come, right? Like maybe in the future, I get an actual VTuber model to do this because someone graciously offered and and maybe I had enough money to pay for it, right? And I had a good time using it, right? Like part of it's like, um, it's okay. We take one step at a time. What do I want to focus on? I want to focus on building this podcast, getting used to talking and yapping with myself, talking about different stories, um, just getting myself out there, right? Just get over this hurdle of wanting to look good. I am okay with being me. And that reminds me because I guess this is like I don't know if this is like maybe this is too far of a stretch to consider as a relationship uh, analogy, but in a sense, I am trying to showcase to the world who I am and what I'm like, and that's kind of what we do on dates as well. And how great would it be if we could just be ourselves? I think sometimes we're too ashamed to be ourselves. And it may be rightfully so. There's some parts of us that need to be worked on. For example, let's say that I struggle with my anger. Then maybe that's something I should work on, right? And should is often an expectation. But part of it is, if you think that there's something wrong with you, wouldn't it be nice where someone could say, that's okay? Well, I guess there's multiple parts to it. It gets a little complex. It's not so easy like that, clearly. Um, because it's not only the acceptance of the flaws, but obviously you would hope with such anger issues that that individual would be wanting and willing to work on it, find support, mental health professionals, or whoever could help them manage their anger issues, right? But I think that's the beautiful part, right? Like I think in a relationship, clearly we like people for I call it peacocking, right? Like there's these beautiful feathers. There's a bird who showcases like how beautiful and wonderful they are. But that's only one trait about them, right? Like there's plenty of things that we can respect, we could admire, we can really, how do you describe it? That we can just really like, as like we like people with certain traits. Obviously, physical beauty is one thing, but there's also like it's like physical beauty is one thing because when you get to know someone, if their personality sucks, their physical beauty doesn't matter. In the same way, some people get really attractive once you find out what they're like inside. Once you know their personality and how great of a person they are, uh, you might not have been physically attracted before, but you might see them in a different light. That happens, right? And so, in a similar way, I think what's super attractive in a relationship is when people fail at something and they're okay with it. They're graceful. They may trip or fall tragically, and I think that reminds me of the movie Hitch. I don't know how many of you have seen it. I don't know how I'm dating my age. I don't even know if that's the right phrase to use. How much of my age is being revealed, exposed right now? But Hitch, I feel like is that a 2000s movie? I could look it up. I could look it up later. But either way, basically Will Smith is a relationship coach, a dating coach who tries to help people be genuine, be themselves, and but also be charming to potential dates. And spoiler alert, I don't know, should I even say spoiler? It's been so long. I think you can still enjoy it without it, but uh, spoiler alert. Come back in like I don't know 2 minutes. I don't know. Very simple. The lesson of the story is the fact that someone when there's a couple, there's someone who is coaching, and someone and he's trying to date like I forget like a celebrity or supermodel, whoever, and he kind of makes a lot of mistakes, and she falls in love with that about who he is. Like he's just really genuinely himself, and that some of his like he spills food on himself or something. I forget if it was a hot dog or something, some sauce. And like she helps clean him up. Like she doesn't see that as a negative thing. Obviously, he feels disappointed because he wants to look good in front of her. But there's a beautiful dynamic between when people are imperfect, um, that you're willing to accept that about that person. And there is clearly boundary. I don't know if boundaries is even the right word you want to use, but if there's something that you don't want in a partner because you're predicting that it could be bad, I think that's a fair judgment call to make, right? Like it's like anger issues, very simple, right? It's just like I think it could escalate and it could get dangerous. Very reasonable discernment that you can use. Now, if that person is willing, the person with anger issues is willing and wanting to change, I think that's extremely attractive, right? And clearly, you have to follow up with them and see how they grow and change. But aren't like I kind of get excited, right? I get inspired to see who they become. It's and that's honestly the hero's journey story of any movie that you see, right? Um, maybe it's this is around Christmas time, and you saw a Christmas movie, a rom com, right? And the guy has flaws. And clearly you can see it. They make mistakes and romance doesn't work out, whatever. And then they want to change and they become a different person through different experiences. Like that is what inspires us and attracts us to people because it also demonstrates that we could do the same, right? And I think when we are able to show the world our flaws and say, I'm working on them, And here is where I was, and here's where I've come. I think that's such a beautiful testament to um, you as a person, because it shows, and I think clearly that potential is everywhere, right? Every person can be better than who they were before. It's just a matter of, are they willing, and are they doing, right? It's both the will and the way, I guess, right? Like the action. It's the heart and the actual action, because we also would choose. I think that's why. What is it? Um, it's actions over words. I forget the phrase, and it's terribly prepared episode. But I'm glad we're talking about this, right? Because this is just the nature of the messiness of just talking off the top of my head by myself in front of a computer screen. I'm not even looking at the camera. I'm literally just like looking around, and I think that's why my head's not moving that much. Or I don't know. I don't even know if I don't. I'm not even really paying attention to what the video is being recorded, and I think that's okay. And so we're about 35 minutes in. I can yap a little bit more. Um, basically wrapping up, I guess, what we talked about. I guess maybe rather than talking about other people, I'll talk about myself. One of the things that I grew up as a chubby kid, and I envied people who could run a mile, because my mile time was like 20 plus minutes as a kid. I remember hating the mile. Um, when I got older, especially during puberty, I lost a lot of weight because it was transformed into height. And so, like in the freshman year of high school was probably when I was one of the skinniest times ever. I also played lacrosse, which helped with the exercise, right? But I never liked running. Um, and I'm not here to say I want to like running. I opted to jump roping, and that's a whole different story. I have a jump rope story about how I lost weight and stuff. I lost 30 pounds. It was great. But basically, I am wanting and definitely willing to be more physically fit and healthy. Something I've been struggling with. More of, I think I eat pretty healthy. I think people say I eat extremely healthy. I think the problem is the lack of actual movement. And there's only and cardio. I haven't done cardio. I haven't done jump roping in such a long time, but I am wanting and willing to get back into it. I've always told myself there's one point in my life that I want to have six pack. I want to have a beautiful six pack. I don't have to maintain it for very long, but it's kind of like a fitness goal that I don't know, fitness, perhaps dream that I have, that I want to reach at one point in my life, and perhaps sooner than later, right? It is 6 months from from I don't know, I forget when summer officially starts, but let's say, I mean, 6 months from now is still May, right? Um, and so perhaps I don't know if I'll document that journey. This podcast is not about that, but maybe that is something that I could document along the way. I hate exercising, not because I hate it. I think it's just because when I exercise, I realize how unfit I am, and that makes me feel not good about myself. And so that feeds a negative cycle of you don't wanting to do it. But I'm willing and wanting. And kind of like this podcast and how it's a great opportunity to grow, and New Year's resolution is right upon us. I am here to mess up and be proud that I tried, because I think it's easy to criticize people when you're not the one. We call it like when you're not the one playing the game, when you're not the one on the front lines, when you're not the one doing things. It's so easy to critique and judge and say, um, that person looks ridiculous. I don't know how you feel about people jogging outside. There's plenty of overweight people, perhaps wanting to run, wanting to walk. Maybe you see them in the gym, and it's so easy to point and laugh at them. But I myself am would be ashamed, because I myself don't do what they're doing. Like, they're actually taking action, and I've definitely taken action in the past, and so I know I have it in me. But I'm also ashamed that I haven't done it in so long. It's been probably 2 years since I've been jump roping consistently. And so maybe as part of this podcast, there might be some updates about my fitness journey. Or maybe I'll just make a video after 6 months, and you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, like what happened?" And I'll be like, I just did what I said I would do. And that's part of coaching, really. It's just like there are things I want to do. I want to be a successful, effective coach. I want to be physically fit and healthy, and I want to be a great, loving partner, right? And so I think I don't know. Maybe that'll be my New Year's. I don't know if goal is the right way to put it. I don't know if resolution is the right way to put it either. But there are things those are things that I would like to be consistent in, and it's gonna be messy, and I'm gonna stumble along the way, and that's okay. I think I would like to see how far I've come, and I hope that the listeners too, that there's something that you would want to do with your life. Um, Maybe it's been something that it's in the back of your mind, um, something that you've been wanting to do, and I would love to hear, or I don't know if you want to write a comment down below. I would love to hear what is something that you would like to do, and that you can share with me as I yap along. I'm gonna try to yap every week. As I yap along every week, I'd love to hear and hear your journey with me together. And so if you've made it this far, um, thank you. In my head, I was just like, oh, please type blah blah, so like something below if you've made it this far. And so there was this another side story. It's so funny. I'm such a terrible yapper. I just yap about everything. Um, there was this rapping show, Korean rapping show called Show Me the Money that I used to watch with my roommate, my old roommate. He got married. Good for him. Um, but we really enjoyed watching this rapping show, like a Korean rapping show. I was like finding a rapping talent. And there was a guy who used the phrase gang gang. And for whatever reason, it caught on so hard. And so if you've made it this far to the podcast, please comment gang gang down below. And I hope that's not a terrible gang slang or anything like that. But gang gang was like such a such a funny and fun thing during that season of Show Me the Money. And yes, and I appreciate you all following in my journey, despite how messy and unstructured this is at the moment. And so, happy holidays, everyone. I'll see you hopefully next week. Bye bye.